would you say the five main ingredients or foods to support longevity? Whether it be like
this is great. It's a great question, right? So what should we be eating, right? We shouldn't be eating ultra-processed food. We shouldn't be eating too much starch and sugar. We shouldn't be eating refined oils. We shouldn't be eating additives and chemicals. We eat about 5 pounds of additives per person a year. We shouldn't be eating pesticides, herbicides, all that crap. So that's just a given. But what should we be eating? Well, start out with the most important things for longevity, which are these phytochemicals in plant foods. So the majority of your diet by volume should be colorful fruits and vegetables and weird stuff if you can. Eat dandelion greens, eat seaweed, eat all this weird stuff because that's where all the medicine is. So the more colorful it is, the more heirloom it is, the more regenerative it is, the more organic it is, the more wild it is, the better it is. So if you had a wild strawberry, it's about the size of a peanut, but it tastes like an explosion of flavor if you ever ate a summer wild strawberry.
Sure.
But you can go to the supermarket and buy these giant strawberries that look great, but they put in your mouth, it's like, I think it's a strawberry. It's so
like an apple.
Yeah, like an apple, But it's not very tasty because the phytochemicals aren't there. So we know that you want to include a rich array of these phytochemicals, and the special ones for longevity are things like phycetin, that's in strawberries. From pomegranate, you can produce urolithin A, which improves your mitochondrial function. So you can have green tea, which is epiglycolic and gallate compounds, which I talked about in the sage. You can have resveratrol, which is in red grape skins. There's a lot of plant compounds that you can start to include. Curcumin, which is a powerful anti-inflammatory. So you can have a wonderful time having a delicious diet. And then mushrooms. They're not really a vegetable. They're its own category. And mushrooms have an incredible array of compounds, these polysaccharides that turn out are immune modulating, anti-cancer, adaptogenic, and so we need to be including a lot more good mushrooms. And you can take mushrooms as supplements, but you can also eat a lot more of the good mushrooms. Also, garlic and onions are really important for sulfur and the broccoli family specifically because they upregulate glutathione, which is important for detox. So you really want to have a wide array of these medicines in these plant foods. The second thing you want to do is eat the right fats. So omega-3 fats are key, olive oil is key. Those are real longevity foods. And then protein, and this is where that gets sticky for people in terms of controversy, because a lot of longevity research are saying, well, we shouldn't eat protein because it activates this pathway that inhibits the body's own ability to clean itself, called autophagy. Autophagy means self-cleaning, self-cannibalism. It's like a Pac-Man that runs around cleaning up old cells. And we've all heard about now time-restricted eating, intermittent fasting, and all these things, ketogenic diets. Well, they activate this process, which is built in. It's a built-in recycling, repair, and regeneration, renewal, and longevity pathway. Now, when we eat all the time, we inhibit that pathway. Right. So it's like making food in your kitchen for a month and never washing the dishes, right? It's going to be a mess. So that's what you don't want that to happen. You want the cleaning crew to come in every night and clean up. And so that's what we have to have. But if you eat protein all the time, that pathway is inhibited. I mean, that pathway is stimulated, so you can't actually get the autophagy to happen, the cleanup to happen. So the key is you want to inhibit this pathway called mTOR, which we can talk about. mTOR is this really amazing kind of key longevity switch. I call it a longevity switch that is inhibited by fasting. It's inhibited by certain plant compounds. It can be inhibited by drugs like rapamycin. And so this is being looked at as a key strategy for enhancing longevity. In animal models, they can extend life again by a third by inhibiting this pathway. But it's stimulated by protein and by sugar. So many longevity researchers say, well, no, you shouldn't have protein. But, well, the other part of longevity is muscle.
You need the muscle.
Right.
You need grip strength, you need muscle, you need to be able to get yourself off the ground if you fall, like all these things, right?
So muscle is the currency.
You need bone density, right?
For sure. So you know, muscle is the currency of aging and longevity. And what happens as we age is we lose muscle. So we can be the same weight as we were at 25, at 70, but be twice as fat, like a ribeye instead of a filet mignon.
Yeah, that's not good.
And that marbled muscle filled with fat doesn't work right. And it causes inflammation and aging and diabetes and heart disease and cancer and dementia and all this stuff is coming from this. Plus you can't get out of a chair and do the normal things you want to do. I mean, most of the reason people end up in nursing homes is because they can't do their daily functions. They can't tie their shoes. They can't get out of bed. They're kind of weak. They can't get out of a chair. It's not because they're sick. So sarcopenia is real. So you have to figure out the balance between building muscle and having the cleaning and repair crew come in at night. So you want to have at least a 12 to 14, even 16-hour overnight fast. we used to call it breakfast.
Sure,
right?
sure.
If you eat dinner at 6 and you eat breakfast at 6 in the morning, that's a 12-hour fast. But we just keep eating all night, and then we get up, eat in the morning. So really got to give yourself a body a break to do the cleaning. And then you want to load protein in at the right times, like when you wake up and have done this overnight fast, a good dose of protein, like 30, 40, 50 grams to activate muscle synthesis. And you need the right quality protein. Now this is where it's controversial because a lot of people are saying be vegan because it's going to save you and save the planet. But the truth is that plant proteins are low in leucine, which is a really important amino acid that's needed to turn on muscle. So if you want to turn on the switch to build muscle, you got to have the right amounts of this. It's like the rate limiting step.
Right.
But plant proteins, you don't have that much. You can eat 6 cups of brown rice, but no one's going to do that. You have a 4-ounce piece of chicken, people can eat that.
Yeah.
So
you want to have a balance of protein and fasting is what I'm hearing you say,
yes.
right?
So time on and time off. So it's like that Goldilocks, right? You want the demolition crew and the construction crew, right? And so that's the beauty. And so you don't want to stop protein synthesis because it's essential for life. And if you start to lose muscle, that's when you start to become frail and disabled. So I think I write a lot about this in the book. It's not my opinion. This is a group of protein experts from around the world who got together and wrote this paper surveying all the literature in the world, looking at this and what we should be doing. And it was called the PROTAGE study.
What's it called?
PROTAGE study. It's in the book. And essentially it says, look, as you get older, we need more protein, not less. And
as you get older, we need more protein.
Yeah,
because the body, it's harder to keep the protein.
That's right.
It's harder to keep the muscle, right?
Right. So there's a phenomenon called anabolic resistance, where anabolic means to build muscle. So we want to build muscle, but there's resistance of the muscles to build more muscle. So you need more exercise and more protein. So key is to eat a good dose of protein about an hour or 2 after a workout. That's the best way. And then you can add some things to it like creatine or other things. Now, if you're vegan, you can also add amino acids. You can eat your plant proteins, but then you need to add amino acids. And I've seen these, really jacked up bodybuilders who are vegan. I'm like, well, how do you do that? It's like, we eat, so much plant protein shakes, these highly processed, pulverized things that are jacked up with all sorts of amino acids. It's cheating a little bit.
Sure.
So you can't really get it directly from the
plants.
Food. Yeah, it's just the science. I'm not making this up. I wish it was different. I was a vegetarian vegan for 10 years, and I have a picture of me when I was 40 and 63. I'll show you the difference. You won't believe it.
Really?
You can post it on the.
We'll post it up. Yeah.
But it's like what? Who's who? Because it's like I look like so jacked up at 62 compared to 40.
Come on.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What are you doing differently at 60?
I just changed my diet, and I did a little bit of band resistance training. I was always doing yoga, running, biking. I thought that's enough, but then I started doing a little bit resistance training. I started doing this strategy of this time restricted eating, and then adding a bunch of protein after my workouts, and it worked.
Now, what's this?
You want to see?
Let's see it. Yeah, I do want to see.
Okay, I'll show you.
You have to send it to me while I add it
I'll send it to you. It's
too.
it's pretty wild. Like I can't quite believe it.
Now, will the same strategy be at 60 in your 60s as in your 80s?
Yeah, I think the possibility of staying young longer is amazing. The research has shown that if you take even 60 years old, they can perform at the level of 30-year-olds if they're trained right.
Wow.
So you don't have to lose that much function. And there's an amazing study on the Tarahumara Indians. The Tarahumara Indians live in Mexico, and they were really very, here's the picture, brother.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, so the Tarahumara Indians
we'll put it up on the screen.
Had this belief that if you were older, you were a better runner. These were runners, they would run 100 miles a day, right? They would just do these ultra marathons before there was anything like that. They would run from village to village, mountain to mountain. And so they went down from Harvard and they tested these people. And this is the power of mindset, right? And the beliefs and what that does. And so they believe that as you got older, you got better. So the 20-year-olds are good, the 40-year-olds are better, and the 60-year-olds were better by every objective metric. Their pulmonary function test, their VO2 max, all their performance metrics that were objective, not just how fast they could run, but all the objective measures of fitness were better than the 20-year-olds, which is unbelievable, right?
Wow. What do they do? What do they do differently?
You know what? It's a great question. I just think they had this belief. And they train themselves.
It's incredible.
It's really quite incredible.
I want to complete this 5 foods for longevity. We talked about more colorful
fruits and vegetables and phytochemicals.
Phytochemicals. Then we talked about the right fats. I think you said protein was the next thing.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing is to understand how to eat for your microbiome. The microbiome is really important, and it's not on the classic list of hallmarks of aging. I added it. But when you look at the literature, it's really clear that as we age, our microbiome degrades. We get what we call dysbiosis, imbalances in our gut bacteria, and those gut bacteria become toxic and inflammatory. So part of the diet you have to have is to take care of your inner garden. You need pre and probiotic foods and polyphenols. So prebiotic foods are things like, asparagus, artichokes, Jerusalem artichokes, jicama, plantains. These are foods that feed the good bacteria, right? And then there's probiotic foods, sauerkraut, kimchi, miso, tempeh. So these ancient foods that have been around forever that are fermented foods that are prebiotic foods. I grew up on pickles. I'm Jewish. I didn't even know that was a probiotic food until recently. and then there's polyphenols, and this is an incredible discovery that there are certain compounds in plants that your gut bacteria love. So you're not only eating for yourself, you're eating for the trillions of microbes that almost outnumber your cells in your gut.
Right.
And those microbes, when they're bad, cause inflammation and disease and diabetes and cancer and everything else. But when they're good, they regulate inflammation, they help you stay healthy. It's super important to feed them right. So you have to learn how to tend your inner garden. And there's a couple of ones that are really important, like green tea, pomegranate, cranberry. And pomegranate's an interesting one. I talk about this in the book. Most people have pretty crappy microbiomes, pun intended. And the truth is that you've lost a lot of important species that you need to work with your diet to make good stuff. So if you eat pomegranate, it has a compound in it that gets converted by good gut bacteria to something called urolithin A. Now, urolithin A you might not have heard about, but you will. It's really amazing, and there's millions of dollars of research on this compound that is derived from pomegranate being metabolized by your gut bacteria and producing this compound. But you could also make it and give it externally. And in studies, they found that without exercise, it increases fitness level through VO2 max, increases muscle strength, and increases mitochondrial cleanup or a mitochondrial autophagy.
Without exercise.
Without exercise, and also increases mitochondrial renewal and biogenesis to make new mitochondria. So basically, think about it, you're taking this like pomegranate, your gut's metabolizing it, you create this magical longevity compound, and that's just one example, right? So we need to feed our gut bacteria with lots of these colorful vegetables.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So eat for your microbiome is something you said to come back to. Is that what we're talking about here?
We just did.
And then what would be the fifth thing to add to this?
I think the
5 main things, foods for longevity.
Yeah, I think I probably would say it would be eating with joy.
I love that.
I think people get so screwed up about food and get so obsessive and so rigid about it that part of the key is celebration, enjoyment. It's my birthday soon. I'm having a crew over. We're having a friend's Thanksgiving. It's going to be yummy and delicious. We're probably going to overeat. There's definitely going to be some pecan pie.
Oh man, sounds incredible.
So that's okay. So it shouldn't be too rigid, but I think the key of community and eating with joy and eating with pleasure and savoring your food, and it's really, really important. Yeah,
enjoying it.
Yeah,
not being so stressed and overwhelmed about it.
For sure, and also eating in celebration with joy, like with community, with friends.
In celebration with.